Hi, I'm John Tronfeld with the University of Maryland Extension, here with today's gardening tip. We're going to build a 5-gallon bucket garden. And I learned this from Kent Phillips, an Extension Master Gardener, who taught it to me and many other folks. So let's look at this 5-gallon bucket and talk about how it works. Basically, we have two buckets nested one inside the other. One bucket is going to hold water, and the other bucket is going to hold the potting mix and the plant. So we can see the two buckets that are nested inside each other. The bucket that holds the potting mix has a series of holes drilled in the bottom, and there's a mesh barrier between the two buckets. And this mesh barrier in this case is nothing but fiberglass screening. So we're going to put potting mix in this bucket, and of course we don't want the potting mix to filter down through the holes, so the screening will hold that potting mix in place. The plant goes in to the potting mix, and then we nest that bucket inside the second bucket. So we've created basically a 3-inch water reservoir at the bottom. And when our plant grows, it'll send its roots down through those holes that we drilled in the bottom of the bucket into the water. And so we can then use another recycled item, a 1-gallon milk jug, and actually collect the overflow water and the nutrients that would be coming out of this bucket garden. So it creates a closed system. It's very sustainable. It's a great way to teach people about conserving water and nutrients. 5-gallon buckets are everywhere. Lots of food products come in 5-gallon buckets, and you can find one easily at your local grocery store, bakery, restaurant, bagel store. They're thrown away by the gazillions, which is very unfortunate. And around the world, the 5-gallon bucket is an extremely useful tool for carrying water, supplies, and in this case, growing food. And now I'd like to show you the supplies that we'll need to build our garden. And of course, we need the two buckets. This is some 1/2-inch tubing that we'll use to catch the overflow water and nutrients. And of course, the 1-gallon milk jug. And we do need some bricks or something else to put our bucket on so that we can use this overflow milk jug to catch the water and nutrients. So we'll have to first decide where to drill our holes. And the first hole we want to drill is the overflow hole. We don't want water to drown our plants, so we need to have a hole on the outside of that bucket that's going to be catching our water so that we can drain off the excess water. So the way we do that is we take our tape measure and we measure from the bottom of the rim of our bucket that's going to hold our plant, and that's about 11 1/4 inches from the bottom of the rim to the bottom of the bucket. And we're going to transfer this measurement over to our bucket that holds the water, and we'll put the tape measure at the top and measure down 11 1/4 inches plus a 1/2 inch, and that puts it right at about 11 3/4 inches. That's where we're going to drill our drainage hole for the bucket. We're going to nest one bucket inside the other. If it's a white bucket, we'll be able to see where it falls inside that outside bucket, and we can make our mark. And we'll drill a drainage hole 1/2 inch below that mark. So if we don't have white buckets, we can simply take our buckets and place the bottom of the rim of one bucket on top of our other bucket. And we can make our mark 1/2 inch below this bucket that's sitting on top of the other bucket. And that'll be our drainage hole. And of course, we're going to need a drill, and there's a spade bit on this drill. It's a 1/2 inch bit. You could use other types of drill bits. So we're going to turn our bucket over That's our drainage hole mark, and we're going to go 1/2 inch below that mark and make our hole. And so that's where our overflow tubing will go. And now we'll turn our inside bucket over. So this is the bucket that's going to hold the growing mix in our plant. And we'll make about 8 to 10 holes. So it doesn't have to be perfect or pretty, but we've got plenty of holes for our plant roots to grow down through and then into the water. And the water, of course, will have nutrients in it from the fertilizers and the compost that we use. And now we can insert our drainage tube to collect our water and nutrients. And that's just going to slide right in there. And you know, it feels a little loose, so I think it's a good idea sometimes to actually add some electrical tape to make for a snugger fit. So let's try that. Yeah, that's much better. And then we can also take a small screw and actually screw it into the tubing that's inside the bucket. And what that'll do is basically prevent the tube from coming out of the bucket. It's kind of a stop that keeps the tube inside. And then we can put our buckets together. We'll fill it with a potting mix and set it up on a couple of bricks. Put our overflow bucket next to it, and we've got our complete system. So in order to plant our garden, we're going to need some potting mix. This is a commercial potting mix, perfectly good to use. It's got compost in it and other ingredients that'll, you know, sustain plant growth through the whole season. We can also mix compost and any kind of lightweight potting mix, 50-50, mix it all together, put it in the bucket, and plant. What can we plant? What we have found the most success with are plants like tomato and pepper, 1 plant per bucket. Also, many different herbs will grow very well. You could grow a patio cucumber plant, and certainly other, you know, leafy greens and things like that. But people seem to like them most for tomato and pepper and herbs, especially basil.